I'm gonna go ahead and get my torches all set up here. For this, I'm gonna, like I said earlier, I don't really use my crossfire. It's all up to preference for everybody. A lot of old school shops, that's their ride or die. I didn't have that, so I'm gonna use my fishtail cannon, and then I've got my ribbon burner over here that I'm gonna use. Turn the switch on.
I love that.
The setting on your fires don't matter as much now that it's leaded glass. You still want to get them as fine blue as possible. With old leaded glass, you have to get it as lean as possible, as much air and little amount of gas as possible. Otherwise, it will oxidize your glass and turn it black, which if you guys ever come in contact with leaded glass, you'll know right away. So this, it doesn't really matter that much. I just try to get it as close as possible. But when I'm doing leaded glass on like old restorations, that has to be dialed in perfectly. Otherwise, your glass will just turn black, and it's no good.
Think of it as a learning experience.
Yeah. And so I'm going to go ahead and show this to you as one letter at a time instead of trying to bend multiple letters with a piece of glass, because starting out, that's what you're going to want to do, because it takes a little more practice to get more than one letter on a piece of glass. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with about half of my stick for my letter. And then once I get my extra bent around, I'm just going to cut it off and I'm going to weld each letter together. Nice. So my first bend, I'm going to come up here. The middle of my heat is going to be right in on the inside of this glass line, or this bottom of the F. And then I'm going to measure up 1.5 times the thickness of the glass in both directions. So in order to make this 90-degree bend, I'm measuring out 1.5 times the thickness of the glass in both directions from the center of my bend. I know you guys, you're probably using blow hoses and stuff. I try not to use blow hoses unless I really need them, because I have a tendency to get tangled up in them or caught in the fire or whatever. So if I can get away without using a blow hose, I just blow into the glass like this. I set my fire to the right distance that I need for my 90-degree bend. I'm going to rotate this thing in a 360-degree angle until it starts to get malleable. And then once it gets starting to get malleable, I'm going to focus on the 4 sides of the glass. So if you want to picture the glass as having 4 sides, a top, a bottom, and 2 sides. Once it starts getting malleable like that, I'm going to start focusing on my sides, back and forth, left, right, left, right. Then I've got my bottom, and I've got my top, bottom, and my top. You want your sides to be a little hotter than your bottom and top, and then you want to finish in the bottom like that. Blow a little air into it to get the thickness of the glass right. Get it back over to your pattern. Drop it down while it's still malleable. Line it up with your pattern, and then just wait a few seconds for it to cool down. Once it's cooled down enough to where it's stiffened up, go ahead and mark my next bend. So now I'm going to do a double back to bring this piece back over. Your double backs are going to require a little bit more heat than your 90-degree bends. You guys might be doing this sort of bend in the crossfire. That's okay too, but you still want to focus on all those sides of the glass. Anytime you get one side of the glass heated up more than the other, you're not going to have a good outcome. If you get that book, it'll have illustrations of all the different mistakes that you can make. So once again, once it starts to get malleable, I'm going to focus on my 4 sides. Top, bottom, left, right, left. My sides are going to get hotter than my top and my bottom so that it evens out. And then I'm going to finish the bend in the bottom.
Yeah.
Try to get it up to your eyes so that you can actually see what you're doing. If you're trying to blow in it and you can't see your bend, it's not going to be a good bend. Lay that on my pattern until it cools down. And I'm going to start making my next bend. So the next bend is a drop turn, which requires the same amount of heat as a double back. It's a little more than a 90-degree bend. And once again, I'm doing all of this in the ribbon burner. I don't care what anyone says.
I'm a big fan of the ribbon burner. So. Do you guys remember what that band be like?
And so this is the type of bend where I'm going to start bending it as I'm heating it. So I'm not going to wait for the glass to get totally heated up to start bending it. Since this is a drop turn, I'm going to start putting some pressure on it, and I'm going to start turning it and dropping it at the same time. So you can see the glass is starting to drop, and I'm going to keep flipping it back and forth until it's heated up to where I want it. Pull it into place. Get some air pressure to where the glass is circle again. Bring it over here, and I'm going to drag it into place. You got about 5 or 6 seconds to drag it into place to get you where you want it. You guys might also have some of these in your shop. That'll prevent you from burning your hands. You know, just hold it like that. Make sure you want your pieces to stay as flat as possible because that's what's going to make your stuff easy to mount up. If you're doing 3D stuff, that's a whole nother situation. But if you're doing flat stuff, you want your piece to be as flat as possible. It'll make all your installation and your mounting really easy. Come back. I'm going to close my heat a little bit because I'm just doing a 90-degree bend. For some reason it took forever for the ribbon burners to like get malleable. Like on Saturday, I'm like, what the heck was wrong with you? It took forever to like.
Okay, so Derek's gonna look at the fan and the blower.
They're like 45 minutes with one thing.
It took forever. Like these don't. It really took a long time to make it malleable. You know.
I just usually just bending it up to the middle. That's how I'm able to get.
Always bring it up to your face so you can see what your bend looks like. You can't trust what your hands and stuff are doing. You have to put your eyes right on your bend. Get it up to your face and see what it looks like. Make sure your middle mark is on the middle of your bend. It's really easy to pull it over too far this way or that way. You put your eyes on it, you see your mark right in the middle of your bend. Alright, so I've got my letter F made. I'm going to go ahead. In this instance, what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out where my electrode is going to go. I'm going to weld my electrode on, and then I'm going to go ahead and bend a double back immediately after I put my electrode on. The electrode's pretty much the same size, like so. It depends on the length of the sign that you're doing, but you always want your electrodes to be larger, the same size or larger than the piece that you're doing. So since I'm doing 12 millimeter, I'm going to put 15 millimeter electrodes on. So I've got all my electrodes here. Are you guys using tubulated electrodes or are you side tubulating on the tube?
No, there's the tubulated and then the other one.
Okay, gotcha. Let me show you. I got a little example here. This is like the way people used to do things back in the day before this was invented. They would just blow a little hole in the side of the tube and weld tubulation on there. But if you guys have tubulated electrodes,
You're all good.
I'm going to put this back here. I'm going to measure where my double back is going to be. And then I'm going to add a little bit of extra glass, and that's where I'm going to cut it to put my electrode on. Make sure you don't have any Stabilo pencil. If you guys are using coated glass, you got to make sure that you wipe out the inside of the tube. It is absolutely imperative if you want these tubes to work. It is imperative that you get this phosphor out of here. So I take a rag like that, wipe out the inside, give it a little blow, and you see there's like a little bit of thin glass showing on the end. Absolutely imperative. Any of that phosphor gets in your weld, it will leave a pinhole, and I cannot pump it up. Alright, so I'm going to show you this first weld with the hand torch, and then I'll show you another weld with the crossfire. So I'm going to grab one of these little stools right here. My hand torch, that's like kind of my ride or die. Like I do everything with this hand torch. My mother-in-law makes these for me. You can put them in the microwave and heat them up and put them on your sore back. Or you can weigh down your glass with them. She doesn't know that I'm using these. I'm like, oh, my back really hurts. Could you make me like 5 more of those bags? So I have like a whole pile of these bags. But they're just filled with like corn that you get from like Tractor Supply or something like that. Like that dried corn. That's all they're filled with. It's heavy enough to hold your tube down, and it keeps it sturdy enough to do that. You guys have these things?
Yes.
Awesome. You guys use mouthpieces?
Yeah.
Awesome. You guys got like those really nice like amber ones? Like this? So I don't use, I have a tendency to like grind my teeth. So I destroy those in about 10 seconds. I have a couple of students that like using glass ones. I just take some 6mm tubulation, soften up the ends on them and put a little bend in them. Those work really nice. I still chew my teeth and I don't want to crunch down on a piece of glass. So I just use the latex tube. That's like the dude where like pain in the ass trying to stick that. Yeah. Like, this ain't happening. Those things lasted me about 3 or 4 days before I crunched through them. So I just chew on the tube. Whatever. I notice when I have it, I'm just sitting there chewing on it. Yeah. And it seems like I'm like inadvertently blowing into my glass all the time. Like face panels. So this is another situation where you really want to focus on every side of the glass. I want top and bottom, and I want the sides to be hot. Hold on, I got a problem here. You're going up. All the sides need to be hot. And since this electrode is a little bit bigger than the glass, I need to focus my heat on the electrode a little bit more so that it starts to like suck down a little bit. I'm going to wait till they get nice and hot, and then I'm going to press them together. Take my heat off. Blow a little air. You also want to push, pull, suck, and blow. That way you know you have a really good weld. You do not want pinholes. Put it back over here and just let it chill for a second. After about 10 seconds, I'll take it back over to the ribbon burner and I'll do my double back immediately.
What color is it gonna be?
What's that?
What color is it gonna be?
We can either put argon or mercury in this, or we can put neon. I'll let you guys decide. So if we do mercury and argon, I'll show you guys how to make a mercury trap. I know you guys won't be doing that in your shop, but it might just be interesting for you to see. So I'm going to go ahead and put it right back in the fire while it's still hot. If you wait too long, that electrode is going to break right off of there. As soon as you put it in the fire, it's just going to snap. So if you're going to do it this way, you need to go straight back into the fire. You get it evenly heated. Bottom, top, bottom, top. Got that side, and I got that side. Finish in the bottom. I got my eyes right on it to make sure that I got it blown out to the right thickness. I'm going to bring it back over here, lay it on my pattern, and hold it straight so it cools down. Alright, so we got a letter F. So before we move on to this next letter, I'm going to go ahead and put a rise bend in it so I can connect to the other piece, and then we'll move on to the next letter. And if I start running out of time, somebody yell and I'll go faster. I'm just trying to give you as much information as I possibly can. Kind of wait for me to download information out of the brain. Alright, I'm going to do a rise bend on this. A little more heat than a 90 degree. Try not to burn yourself. Has anyone burned themselves yet?
Yeah, like who hasn't burned themselves? Yeah, I have not. Not one. Give it time.
I burn myself every day.
I burnt myself today.
And this is the same kind of bend. I'm going to start making the bend while it's still in the heat. I'm going to start turning it and I'm going to start stretching it at the same time. Finish it up in the bottom. A little air to get it to where it needs to be. Bring it over to my pattern and make sure it lines up. Good. I got a little 45 to make right here real quick, and then I'll move on to the next letter. The next letters will go a lot faster. This is just kind of a E's and F's just kind of take some time. So I use my fingers for spacing. Some people use a block. Whatever you decide you want to use, just make it consistent. So I use my fingers to hold up the glass. I know how high I want my hand to be to make sure all my double backs line up and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes when you're first starting out, one of these like asbestos blocks, that's a good way to do it to keep yourself consistent. Because if you go to line up two letters, one's this high and one's this high, it's a pain in the ass. So just find something that's consistent for you, whether it's your hand, the thickness of your fingers, a block, whatever. If you like shorter stuff, you can use something like this, it's a little bit thinner. Just find something that works for you. So I already know that I'm going to weld this thing like somewhere in the middle, so I'm going to make a little mark, cut off my extra piece, and then I'm going to throw that letter aside and make the rest.
You had everybody's heart jump, right?
It's okay. Let's see. Looks fine. Okay, good. Yeah, it's all about just getting comfortable with it. You're gonna experience a lot of bullshit, and then you'll realize that some of it isn't that bad. When you first start out, everything will make your heart stop. Everything sucks. It's glass, it breaks, it makes noise, it hurts your heart. Just keep working. You just need time. That's all you need.
To be very exhausting as well.
Yes. Insanely exhausting. My workbench isn't very big. I don't know what you guys have, but I constantly have to rotate my patterns around and make stuff. So I'm going to make this hue. This is just going to consist of, well, we can do it two different ways. He drew out this hue with kind of a flat spot in the bottom, with kind of some rounded turns. So there'll be two heats, and then I'm going to do my double backs. So I'm going to leave enough over here on this side so that I know whenever I do a double back, I have enough to cut off. If you don't leave yourself enough to cut off or to hold on to, you're going to have problems. So you're going to burn your hand, or it's going to be impossible to cut off. So just waste glass. I don't know if I should say that, but just waste glass. Okay.
No, I told him that also.
Make your life easy. You just waste glass. Like, that's all you gotta do. You're gonna be so much happier that you did. I always put my cork in the longer side so that the shorter side reaches my mouth.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting song.
Whenever you're bending, you want to make sure that your elbows are next to your side. You don't want to be like this. You don't want to be over the top. You always want to have your hands underneath and your elbows to your side. The sides of your glass are always going to get hotter than your top and your bottom. And then you're going to finish in the bottom. I think initially it was like, how much air do I need to blow in? Again? Okay? That's what it is. Like, it'll just become like natural to you. Like this one right here, I can tell you, I did not puff enough air into that.
Yeah.
See how it's kind of flattened a little bit? It's okay, it's not perfect, it's handmade. The only thing you want to avoid is just like pinched off stuff. The gas cannot flow through the pinched off stuff.
Right.
This is just an aesthetics thing, but if anything more than that, it's going to be like a technical problematic thing for you. Yep, exactly. So I'm really just trying to go through this as fast as possible so you can see the bombarding process. I'm just kind of cooking through it as fast as I can. I would advise you take a little more care than what I'm giving right now. Really focus. Try and get all your sides of your glass hot.
I have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
So you're going through this pretty quickly, and you said you had a lot of like commission work. Do you set a goal for like how many signs you try and create like in a week, or?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, so I have like a working list that I go off of, and I really try to stay on deadline with that. So I really try to finish 2 to 3 signs a week. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, just depending on if it's a repair, if it's a brand new build, what it is. Like right now I'm working on the Silco Theater in Silver City. They have like an old school neon sign that hasn't worked in a million years. And I finished up all the pieces for it today. Tomorrow morning I'm going to go over there and I'm going to install the pieces. And so I think I gave them a 1-month deadline, and I'm on week 3 right now. So I try to do my best to stay on those deadlines, but making little notes. I got a little chalkboard. That's something to keep on track. Because it's easy to forget. Once you get over like 2 or 3 jobs, you've forgotten everything. Like there's nothing. So I've got the bottom part of my U-bend. I'm going to go ahead and do, these are kind of like, these are double backs, but they're kind of going to the side. And after I get this letter finished, I'm going to go ahead and weld it onto my F, the first letter, and then we'll finish up the N. Did you guys decide what color you want this to be?
Mercury, argon, mercury.
Argon with mercury? You got it.
They've never seen it. A lot of the tubes we're using right now were donated for Deret Neon in Arizona, but they're all.
Oh, cool! Grants Neon, that's awesome.
So we have, but all of them are with phosphor. And been arguing with the school because they haven't placed our neon order yet. So they don't have clear tubes yet. So they've been trying to learn what this called phosphorus tubes. But it was really cool that Brown's like donated all these tubes.
Oh, that's so cool. That's super cool. Grants Neon is awesome, man. Mark that out. Finish my other double back, and then we'll weld it on.
It must be nice here in the winter.
Oh, it's perfect in the winter. In the summer, it's
Yeah.
awful. My little air conditioner doesn't do anything.
Well, that's why I told him, like, this is why the class is in the fall and not in the spring.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be clumsy.
At least I'm losing some pounds or two.
The only thing that sucks is when it's really hot, you're sweating. If you're sweating and you're looking over your hot glass and sweat drips down,
No.
that is one glass breaking sound that you don't want to hear because you know you caused it. And I do it all the time. Like you can see me sweating right now. I'll drip sweat right on a hot bend. It shatters it. It puts like little spider breaks in it. Like so. I can't wait for colder weather. So this piece fits my pattern. It's ready to go. I'm gonna bring my other piece back over here and I'm gonna weld it on. You got FU going. I got FU.
We should keep it at that.
There.
FU.
That's a great idea. We're running out of time. So let's do that.
It suits better.
Whenever I'm lining up these pieces, I'll put one piece down and I'll lay the other piece over the top, and that'll let me know where I need to mark this piece. And so I know that whenever I cut that, they're going to line right up.
It's funny here.
My word.
Give me that UTEP sculpture, FU.
Perfect. So I did the first weld in the hand torch, and I'm going to show you this weld on the crossfire, the cannon fire. Just so you can see a little bit different process. You said you had like a round cannon fire, right?
Yeah.
So that won't really work for this process, but if you do end up getting some fishtails like this is great for splicing.
I'll see it.
You can order them straight from EGL online.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
So I'm holding them apart from each other and getting them hot. And then once they start to melt a little bit, I'm going to put them together. Keep them in the heat, putting some pressure on them so that they squish together. Take them out of the heat, blow a little air, and I'm going to come back and kind of clean them up a little bit. Make sure that they're sealing good.
Wow. Yeah, they're snuggling with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Bring them back over to your pattern, lay them down, make sure that they line up, and all your pieces are sitting flat. You can use a block, you can use your hands, whatever. Just make sure that they're flat and they're on the pattern. So, you got your little weld right there. I didn't anticipate on making this the end, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this off right now. Normally I would put my electrode on first and then do the double back because it's easier. But I'm going to go ahead and cut this. It's sticking off to the side, but you guys don't care, right? You just want to see it light up.
We have blackout.
You just want to see it light up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the air conditioner. Oh yeah.
No?
My great-grandfather has
How long has it been since you painted?
I've been.
We wanted
I mean, when I put like, I tried to
just light up all pretty colors.
Put my other electrode on. I'm going to use the hand torch just because I have a little more precision in this kind of situation. The electrodes is the spot where you're going to end up with pinholes if you do. Like this is the part that you guys really want to practice on to make sure that you're keeping your heat on there long enough that the glass is really going fluid and sealing together. It's really easy to get nervous and be like, oh, I'm done. Just go a little bit longer. So I'm really trying to focus on all, since this is blasting fire from both sides, I only have to focus on 2 quadrants, top and bottom and side and side. I'm going to get my electrode a little hotter than my glass because I want it to shrink down to meet up to the right size. And now I'm going to put it together. After I do a couple puffs in and out to kind of contract and squeeze the glass down, put a little more fire. Hold it where I want it. Wait till it cools down. Got a nice good weld. We're ready to bombard. F you. Yeah. Alright, so we gotta make a mercury trap for this thing. So this is 6mm glass. This is what I use for the mercury traps. And so what I have to do is blow a little bubble in it. And so the mercury will sit in a little bubble and it'll allow the vacuum to flow over the top of it. So I just put my blow hose on here, and instead of using a cork, I just put my finger on it. I don't know if that's acceptable or not. Whatever. So that's all we really need is just a little bubble. So the mercury will sit down in that little bubble and it will allow the vacuum to flow over the top of it without sucking my mercury up into this thing and contaminating everything and just ruining my life. So I basically just have to let this cool down to like room temperature. You don't want to put hot mercury or mercury on the hot glass because then it vaporizes. When mercury vaporizes, you breathe it in and then it's in your body forever. You don't want that. So we let this thing cool down as much as we possibly can. Mercury is relatively safe. It won't absorb into your skin. Even if you get it in your mouth, it's not that bad. But if it's vaporized, it's in your body forever until they give you that special pill to get it out. You just don't want it. You don't want any of that. Mercury safety is absolutely imperative. I know you guys don't have to deal with that, but like if you do decide to build your own shop or whatever, mercury. You gotta obey the rules on that one. There's no fudging the rules. Make problems for you. Anytime you have a chance to clean your workbench, just clean it up. Get all that shit out of the way. All your little broken pieces of shit everywhere, your pens and your markers and your blow hose, and get it all out of the way. Everything. I turn on my vacuum pump. I'm gonna open my main vacuum and I'm gonna clear out the old gas that I have in there because I don't have any proof that it's not contaminated. You don't want contaminated gas. If you have any oxygen in your tube, it's trash. So, as a good practice, I vacuum out my entire line and I put new gas in every time. I just want to make sure that when I pump a piece up, it's going to work. I don't want to be like, oh, it might work, you know, and then waste another hour fixing it. Or if it has mercury in it, remaking it. So, that's what I try to do. So it's down to vacuum. I'm going to close my main vacuum valve off. I'm going to close this valve off, and I'm going to release some argon into the system. It's all charged up and it's ready to go. Open this thing up right here. I've got my jar of mercury and my hypodermic needle from Tractor Supply. It really only needs like enough mercury, like, you know, smaller than a pea. It's like the tiniest little drop of mercury. So shiny and beautiful. So you guys can see the little mercury sits down in the bottom of that bubble right there, and it allows the vacuum to travel over the top without sucking my mercury back into the system. So I'm going to get this welded on right here. I set up some of these cactus things that you guys saw earlier. That just makes a little insulating layer so I'm not burning my table or allowing the electricity to jump to anything that it's not supposed to jump to. What? So once I get this thing attached, I'm going to pull a vacuum on it. And once it's under pure vacuum, I'm going to attach my wires. And whenever I turn this switch on over here, this red light comes on the wall. We need about a 4-foot space, like, you know, about where you guys are standing right here. Basically, just keep your hands under your arms or behind your back. Just don't touch any torches, don't touch the bench, don't Just literally touch nothing. I don't want anyone to die in my shop today. That's the last thing I need. Like, that's the last thing I need.
I was gonna say, Ruby, why don't you stand?
This is the kind of electricity you do not wake up from. You go to sleep. That's it. You go to sleep.
Because you're not hearing the same home.
Every day.
Es lo más chida.
I did that way through the
I've
taser.
got it attached. I'm going to open my main vacuum. This is the moment where I know if I have a pinhole or if I don't have a pinhole. So I let this, once it's under vacuum, I let it run for about a minute or so, and then I close the vacuum. And if the level on my liquid over here stays the same, I have no leak. If I close that vacuum and that liquid starts going up, I've got a pinhole or a leak somewhere. And then I got to figure out where it's at. So I'm going to close it off right now. Not going anywhere. So I'm going to leave it open. I'm going to go ahead and attach my wires. And before I turn the power on, I need to make sure and check to see if there's any spots that I need to put mica in. And so these little sheets of mica, they will go into spots where the glass is really close together. And if there's nothing in between those spots, the electricity can shoot through the glass and just burn a hole through it. It's trying to find the easiest path of resistance. So I can see right here, I have one spot right here that I think will require mica. If I don't put that in, there's a chance that the electricity will just blow a hole right through it, and then I'll have to start over. So I put a little piece of mica in, and it makes a little barrier. So check this real quick. We're good to go. So I'm going to turn this switch on. As long as everyone stays about this far back, keep your hands either under your arms, behind your back, in your pockets. Just don't touch any of the things over here. You'll be okay. Safety lights on. I've got my foot switch on a cord because I like being safe. I don't like touching stuff. So I'm going to stand right here. And we're going to start cooking these things. So this is what electricity looks like under a pure vacuum with no gas in it. It's kind of like a whitish blue. And so as this tube gets hotter and hotter, it will turn to like almost a white light. And so what I'm watching for right now, I got to get the shells on my electrodes red hot, like cherry hot, and that will tell me that my glass is processed to the point that all the impurities are gone. I want a pure environment inside this tube. Yep. And so right now what I'm going to do, I'm on about half power right now. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off, and I'm going to raise my power up closer to full power. I'm going to turn it back on. I'm going to give her the dinner. And so this will finish her up. You can see it starting to get brighter and whiter. And so the glass is starting to get hot. It's starting to cook out all the moisture, impurities. Yeah, exactly. And so these electrodes, they have a coating on them that prevents oxygen from affecting the metal. And as we cook it, it burns that coating off and reveals the coating underneath that we actually want. And so that's why we got to get them red hot to burn that crap off in there and suck it out of the vacuum. So anywhere where it's turning pink in the glass, those are impurities that are like exploding right now. And so I've got my electrodes almost red hot. They're getting pretty close. And there's scientific ways about doing this. I've done it for a while now. I just use my eyes and I know it's done. All right, we're done. So now what we got to do is let this thing come down to where it's cool enough for me to touch it with my hands. I'll separate it from the manifold, and then we'll dump the mercury in. Oh, key step, put the argon in. So, yeah, we got about 3 minutes to hang out while this thing cools down, and then we'll put some gas in it. I just got to make sure that I can touch it. It's like room temperature. If you introduce that mercury while the glass is still a little bit warm, the mercury will start sticking to the glass. It's not as bad on clear glass, but if you're using coated glass like you guys are, it will stain it black, and it looks like total shit. So it's better just to wait the extra like minute or two to let it cool down. You're just like standing there like, okay, I'm ready. You just wait it out, be patient, and everything will come out good.
They'll have their clear glass next week.
Awesome.
Thankfully.
Where are you guys ordering your glass
Theoretically.
from? Resupply?
Yeah.
Any of you guys, if you have Instagram or if you want my email or whatever, if you have any like weird questions or whatever, I'll do my best to answer them. If I can't answer them, I know plenty of people that are way smarter than me that can answer those questions for you.
What's the Instagram?
It's a good sign code. All right, so we're ready to put some gas in. I'm going to shut off my main stopcock right here.
Because of the very few minutes.
I'm going to go ahead and throw some gas in there. I'm going to try and get this thing up to about 10 pounds. All right, I'm going to turn this back on to check the color. Just make sure you guys are aware that this thing is on.
Right?
I'm looking at the electrodes right now to make sure I have blue gas at both electrodes. Perfect. Shut that off. You guys are safe. I'm going to get my power out of here. And now I'm going to disconnect it from the manifold. We'll let it cool down for about another minute or two. I'll dump the mercury in, and then we'll put it on the aging transformer, and we'll watch it come to life.
Yeah.
Since this is under vacuum, whenever I put heat on here, the glass is going to start collapsing. And once it collapses, it seals it off and separates the unit. So I heat it up, it collapses, it's separated. So it's a separate unit right now. I just have to wait till it gets to like a little bit cooler of a temperature, and then I'll dump that little ball of mercury inside the tube, and we'll put it on that other transformer over there. Drop it in there. You can see it's inside the tube now. So now that all the mercury is in there, I'm gonna get rid of that extra piece of glass. That's the same process, just heat it up until it gets melty, start pulling on it. I'm going to pull it out a little bit like that to get kind of like a little string going, and then I come back in and remove it. And it's done. So now I'm going to put it on the aging. I'm going to put it on the aging transformer right now, and it usually takes anywhere from 30 seconds to 5 minutes, depending on the size of the piece, to get it aged out properly. And you'll see when I first turn it on, part of it will light up really nice, and part of it will be like, no light at all.
You guys lit? Floor go.
Video.
Move it, really.
Good air conditioner.
Right?
It's so nice right here.
Alright, there you go. Wow. So you can kind of see that like some of the mercury hasn't vaporized yet, and so you got really bright light over here. This is what argon looks like without mercury introduced. It's really dim and doesn't have a lot of luminescence. And so we basically just need to wait for this tube to warm up a little bit. And once it starts warming up, it vaporizes that mercury and creates the full color throughout the tube.
I can see it.
I'll get out of the way so you guys can stare at it.
Look at it, you guys.
Pásale, pásale.
Let's cuddle in. Let's tighten in.
Anything I can do to help.
You know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it better. I'm gonna lick it.
Hey guys, hi. Photo, photo.
We all look cute.
Not me.
Just lie and say yes, please.
I look like a mess, though.
Have you looked at yourself?
Yes, I did.